moved slowly through the dark corridor. His four legs made soft sounds on the metal floor. Behind him, two assistants followed with their lights. They were all a species with gray skin and large black eyes. They had come here in secret. "We should not be here," one assistant whispered. "The Conquered has forbidden this." Did not stop walking. The Conquered forbids many things. That does not make them right. They were inside a human warship. Humans, the cursed species. 3,000 years ago, the Galactic Conquered had decided that humans were too dangerous to live. They came to the human world called Earth. They burned everything. 8 billion humans died in 1 week. The Conquered told the galaxy it was necessary. Humans were violent. Humans were cruel. Humans would have destroyed everyone if they had been allowed to spread among the stars. Had studied the old records. He was not so sure the Conquered told the truth. "There," he said, pointing with one of his thin arms. "Power readings. Something is still working." They found a door covered in frost. Strange symbols were written on it. Human symbols. Used his tool to open it. Inside was a small room. In the center stood a glass chamber. Frost covered the glass but could see something inside. His heart began to beat faster. "Impossible," his assistant said. Wiped the frost away with his hand. Behind the glass was a human, a male dressed in black armor. His eyes were closed. His face was calm. On his chest were symbols and a name, Kangdohun. "He is alive," whispered. He looked at the machines connected to the chamber. They were still working, running on emergency power for 3,000 years. "He is in sleep. The cold kept him alive." "We must leave," the assistant said. "We must report this to the Conquered." "No," touched the glass. "Do you understand what this is? This is a living human, the last one. Everything we know about humans comes from the Conquered. What if they lied? What if humans were not monsters? They killed millions of each other. They had wars constantly. The records show." "The records were written by those who killed them," found the control panel. "I am waking him up." "You are mad." "Press the buttons." The machines began to hum. The frost on the glass began to melt. Inside the chamber, the human's fingers moved. Then his eyes opened. Saw gray faces looking at him through glass. Aliens. His last memory was fire falling from the sky. Soul was burning. His team was dead. The aliens had come and they had brought death with them. The glass slid open. Cold air hit his face. Moved faster than could see. One moment he was in the chamber. The next moment, one assistant was on the ground with a broken neck. The second assistant tried to run, but grabbed him and threw him against the wall. Fell backward, his legs shaking. "Wait, please wait." Stood over him. His eyes were dark and full of rage. His hands were ready to kill. "The war is over," shouted. "Please. The war ended 3,000 years ago." Stopped, his chest moved up and down as he breathed heavily. 3,000 years. "Yes, you were frozen. You were asleep. I woke you up." Looked around the room. He looked at the dead aliens on the floor. Then he looked back at, "Where is my unit? Where is my command?" His voice was very small. "They are gone. Everyone is gone. Your world, your Earth. It was destroyed. The Galactic Conquered killed everyone." Did not move. He did not speak. Watched his face and saw something change behind his eyes. The rage was still there, but now there was something else. Something colder. Something deeper. Everyone said, "Yes, 8 billion, I am sorry. I am so sorry." Walked to the wall and put his hand on it. He stood there for a long time, was afraid to move. He was afraid to speak. Finally spoke again. His voice was quiet now. "My mother lived in, my sister had just had a baby. I was going to meet my nephew when the war was over." He turned to look at. "You say everyone is dead, all 8 billion. The Conquered believed humans were too dangerous. They thought it was the only way to keep the galaxy safe." Safe, laughed, but there was no happiness in it. "They murdered children to keep the galaxy safe." I do not believe what the conquered says. That is why I came here. That is why I woke you up. I wanted to know the truth about humans. Walked toward, wanted to run, but he could not move. The human stopped in front of him and looked down. You want to know about humans? We loved our families. We worked hard. We laughed and cried and dreamed of better days. We were not perfect. We had wars, yes. We made mistakes. But we also made music and art and tried to reach the stars. His voice became hard as stone. And someone decided we did not deserve to exist. Looked up at him. What will you do now? His eyes were cold. You said the conquered gave the order to destroy Earth. Yes, the Grand Arbiter. He still leads the conquered today. Then I have one question. Grabbed the weapon from one of the dead aliens. He checked it, learned how it worked in seconds, and looked back at, where can I find him? Realized something in that moment. The conquered had destroyed Earth because they feared what humans could do. Looking at this man, this soldier who had lost everything and everyone, understood their fear. They had been right to be afraid. They just had not been afraid enough. The station was hidden behind a dead moon. It had no name on any map. The people who lived there called it simply the refuge. Landed his small ship in the dark hangar, sat beside him, looking at everything with careful eyes. He had not spoken much during the journey. He had been thinking, planning, remembering. There are humans here, said. About 40,000 across several hidden places. They are the children of those who escaped the conquered's attack. 40,000, repeated, from 8 billion. They have lived in hiding for 3,000 years. The conquered still hunts them. If they are found, they will be killed. The hangar door opened and armed guards came toward them. They looked human, but something was wrong. They moved with their heads down. They did not look at directly. They seemed small. A woman walked through the guards. She had long black hair and sharp eyes. She wore simple gray clothes, nothing like a uniform. When she saw, her face became hard. She said, "What have you done?" "Lee, this is." "I know what he is." Walked closer and studied like he was a dangerous animal. "A frozen human, a soldier from the old war. You brought death to our door." "I brought hope," said. Hope laughed, but it was not a happy sound. The conquered already knows. Their sensors detected the chamber opening. They are sending a fleet to find him, and when they find him, they will find us. Stepped forward. Guards raised their weapons, but she held up her hand to stop them. "You are the leader here?" asked. "I speak for the human remnant. I keep them alive." "By hiding, by running." "Yes," did not look away from his eyes. "Hiding and running has kept us alive for 3,000 years. Fighting got Earth burned to ash. I will not make that mistake again." Looked past her at the guards, at the people watching from doorways. He saw their faces. He saw fear and shame and something that looked like defeat. "These are humans?" he asked quietly. "They are survivors." "No, these are ghosts pretending to live." Walked past. The guards moved to stop him, but again she waved them back. "I want to see this place. I want to see what humanity has become." He walked through the station for hours and followed him. He saw small rooms where families lived. He saw children who did not play or laugh. He saw people who walked with bent backs and empty eyes. In one room he found a school. Young humans sat and listened to a teacher, stopped and listened too. "Our ancestors were violent," the teacher was saying. "They fought each other for resources. They destroyed their own planet. The conquered tried to help them, but they refused peace. In the end, the conquered had no choice. It was us or the galaxy." Felt his blood turn hot. He walked into the room. The teacher stopped speaking. The children looked at him with wide eyes. "Is this what you teach them?" asked. "That their ancestors deserve to die?" "I teach them history," the teacher said. His voice was weak. "You teach them lies." Looked at the children. "Your ancestors were not perfect. Yes, they had wars. Yes, they made mistakes. But they also built beautiful cities. They wrote songs that could make you cry. They traveled to their moon and dreamed of going further. They loved their children and hoped for better futures. He knelt down to look at them directly. The Conquered did not destroy Earth because humans were evil. They destroyed Earth because they were afraid of what we could become. One small boy raised his hand. "Are you from Earth?" "Yes." "What was it like?" Smiled. It was the first time he had smiled since waking up. It was green and blue. It had mountains that touched the clouds and oceans so big you could not see the other side. It was home. Pulled him out of the room. Her face was red with anger. "You cannot do this," she said. "You cannot fill their heads with dreams of a dead world. Dreams get people killed. And what does fear give them? You have kept them alive, yes, but you have not let them live. You know nothing about us. You slept while we struggled. You slept while we buried our children and ran from world to world. Do not speak to me about living." Nodded slowly. "You are right. I do not know your struggles, but I know that the humans I see here are not the humans I remember. We were fighters. We never gave up, not even when everything seemed lost. Fighting is what killed us." "No, losing is what killed us. We lost one war, but you have surrendered for 3,000 years." He looked at the young people watching them. "I will not force anyone to fight, but I will not hide. I will train anyone who wants to learn. I will teach them what it means to be human. The Conquered fleet is coming, if you are here when they arrive." "I will not be here," turned to face her fully. "I will go out and meet them. I will draw them away from this place. They are looking for me, so I will give them something to chase. You are one man against a fleet. I have been one man against armies before. I am still here." He started walking toward the hangar. "Give me a ship, something small and fast. I will make sure they never find this station." Watched him go. Part of her wanted to stop him. Part of her wanted to throw him out an airlock before he got them all killed. But another part of her, a small part she had buried long ago, felt something she had not felt in years. "Hope." She called out to him, "Soldier." He stopped and looked back. "Some of our young people have been asking about the old ways, the fighting arts. Their parents forbid it, but they practice in secret anyway." She took a deep breath. Maybe before you go you could talk to them." Smiled again. "Bring them to me." That night stood in an empty storage room with 30 young humans around him. They looked at him like he was something from a legend, because he was. "I cannot teach you everything in one night," he said, "but I can teach you this: you are not victims, you are not prey, you are human beings, and human beings do not surrender. We adapt, we survive, we fight back." He raised his fists. "Now let me show you how." Far away, a fleet of Conquered warships entered the sector, hunting for the last human warrior. They had no idea what was coming for them. The Conquered outpost on 6 was quiet. It was a small station that watched this part of space. 20 aliens worked there, monitoring signals and sending reports. Nothing exciting ever happened at 6. Then their power went out. Emergency lights came on, red and weak. The commander, a tall alien with blue skin, tried to call for help. The communications were dead. The doors were locked. "What is happening?" one officer asked. The answer came from the darkness, a voice speaking through their own speakers. 3,000 years ago you killed my world. You murdered 8 billion people and called it justice." The voice was calm, almost soft. "My name is, I am the last son of Earth, and I am coming for all of you." The doors opened. By the time the commander could raise his weapon, it was already too late. 1 hour later, the Conquered found the station. Everyone was alive, but they were all locked in a storage room. Their weapons were gone. Their communications had been destroyed. And on every wall, someone had written the same message in the Conquered's own language. "We remember Earth." This was how it started. Had taken a small ship from the refuge. It was old and damaged, held together with hope and wire. But it was fast and it could hide. He did not sleep. He barely ate. He moved from system to system, always staying ahead of the conquered fleet that hunted him. But he was not running, he was hunting them. He attacked supply stations. He destroyed communication towers. He freed prisoners from conquered jails. He never killed unless he had to, but he made the conquered look weak. And weakness in the galaxy was worse than death. The conquered sent 50 ships to find one man, destroyed 5 of them in 1 week, using tricks they had never seen. He hid in asteroid fields and attacked when they passed. He pretended to surrender, then escaped when they got close. He sent false signals that made them chase shadows. The conquered did not understand. Their officers had studied war for centuries. They had the best weapons, the most advanced ships, the largest crews. How could one human cause so much damage? They did not understand what a human was. Grand Arbiter watched the reports in his great chamber on the capital world. His face was old and tired, but his eyes were sharp. He had led the conquered for 2,000 years. He had seen empires rise and fall. He had ordered the death of Earth and never regretted it. Until now. One human, he said, one frozen soldier, and you cannot catch him. His admiral stood before him, shaking with fear. Grand Arbiter, he fights in ways we have never seen. He does not follow any military rules. He attacks when he should retreat. He retreats when he should surrender. We cannot predict him. Then stop trying to predict him. Burn every sector he enters. Leave him nowhere to hide. But Grand Arbiter, there are civilians in those sectors, other species who are loyal to the conquered. His voice became cold. Then they will die for the conquered. This is more important than a few million lives. If this human is not stopped, if his message spreads, everything we have built will fall. The message was already spreading. Had escaped with, but he did not fight. He had a different weapon, the truth. From his small ship, he sent broadcasts across the galaxy. He told the true story of Earth. He showed evidence he had found in the old records. He explained that the conquered had destroyed humanity not because humans were dangerous, but because the conquered was afraid. The humans were not a threat to the galaxy, said in his broadcasts. They were a threat to the conquered's power. They asked questions. They demanded freedom. They would not bow to anyone, and so they had to die. At first, few listened. The conquered controlled most information and was just one small voice. But some species had always had doubts. They remembered stories their grandparents told about a young species called humans who laughed too loud and dreamed too big. They had been told the humans were monsters. Now they wondered if the real monsters wore the robes of the conquered. Back on the refuge, watched the broadcasts. She watched the reports of attacks, and she watched her people change. The young ones who had trained with practiced every day now. Their parents no longer tried to stop them. Old songs from Earth, songs that had been forbidden for generations, were being sung again. People walked taller. They looked each other in the eyes. One night, a group of young humans came too. "We want to help him," said their leader, a girl named. She was only 17, but her eyes were fierce. "We want to fight." "You would die," said. "Maybe, but we would die as humans, not as shadows hiding in the dark." Looked at them for a long time. She thought about all the years of hiding, all the fear, all the shame. She thought about her grandmother who had escaped Earth as a baby, who had lived her whole life telling her children to be invisible. And she thought about, alone in the darkness, fighting a war he could not win. "I cannot let you go," said. The young one started to protest, but she raised her hand. "I cannot let you go without me." Their faces changed. Hope replaced anger. "Get ready," said. "We are going to find our soldier." The conquered finally caught 3 weeks later. His ship was damaged. His weapons were empty. He had nowhere left to run. 100 warships surrounded him. Their commander sent a message. "Surrender now. You will be taken to the capital for judgment. If you resist, you will be destroyed." Sat in his broken ship and smiled. He pressed the button to respond. I accept. The conquered officers celebrated. They had caught the last human. The threat was over. Grand Arbiter sent a message to the entire galaxy. The human would be put on trial and executed publicly. All would see what happened to those who challenged the conquered. But as they took away in chains, one young officer noticed something strange. The human was not angry. He was not afraid. He was smiling. Why do you smile? The officer asked. You have lost. Looked at him. Lost. I have done exactly what I wanted. I made you chase me across the galaxy. I made you look weak. I made you afraid. He leaned closer. And now you are taking me exactly where I want to go, to the heart of your empire, to stand before your leaders and every species in the galaxy. The officer stepped back. You planned this. In my language, we call this strategy. You would have caught me eventually, so I decided when and where. Your Grand Arbiter wants to make an example of me. Smile became colder. He has no idea what he has done. He is giving me the greatest stage in the galaxy. The officer ran to tell his commander, but it was too late. The fleet was already moving toward the capital. And somewhere behind them, a small group of ships was following. Ships filled with humans who had finally remembered who they were. The trial of the last human was about to begin, but it would not go the way the conquered expected. Nothing would ever be the same again. The great hall of the conquered could hold 1 million beings. Today, it was full. Representatives from 1,000 different species sat in their sections, watching the center stage. Floating cameras sent the image to every corner of the galaxy. Trillions of eyes watched. In the center stood, wearing chains. Grand Arbiter sat on his great throne above everyone else. He was ancient, his gray skin wrinkled, his eyes like chips of black ice. He had waited 3,000 years to close this chapter of history. You are the last of your kind, said. His voice echoed through the hall. The final remnant of a species that threatened all life in this galaxy. Today, we will show everyone why the humans had to die. Stood straight. He did not look like a prisoner. He looked like a man waiting for his moment. Show them, commanded. Images appeared in the air above the crowd. Videos from Earth's history, wars between nations, nuclear explosions, cities burning, the dark parts of human nature displayed for all to see. This is what humans were, said. Violent, cruel. They killed their own kind by the millions. They polluted their own world. They created weapons that could destroy everything. If they had reached the stars, they would have brought this darkness to every corner of the galaxy. The crowd murmured. Many nodded. This matched what they had always been told. You killed 8 billion people because of videos, said. His voice was calm but carried across the hall, including billions of children who had never hurt anyone. We prevented a greater evil. Did you? Looked at the crowd, not at. I do not deny that humans had violence in their history. We were not perfect. We had wars. We made terrible mistakes. He paused. But is there any species here that has not? The crowd became quiet. I have traveled through your galaxy these past weeks. I have seen the conquered's justice. I have seen how you treat species who disagree with you. I have seen your prisons and your cleansing teams. His voice grew harder. We were not the first species you erased. We were just the biggest. Stood up, lies, this human tries to trick you. Then let me show the truth. Looked at the cameras. Somewhere out there was waiting. They had planned this moment. Suddenly, new images appeared in the air. Images that the conquered had tried to hide for centuries. Videos of other species being destroyed. Records of planets being burned. Evidence of the conquered's secret crimes across 3,000 years. The crowd exploded in noise. Species began shouting at each other. Some demanded explanations. Others called for silence. One representative stood up. He was from a species with orange scales and golden eyes. These records show my grandfather's world. The conquered told us it was destroyed by disease, but these videos show conquered ships in orbit. Another voice. My people have spoken of this for generations. We were told we were lying. Silence shouted, but his voice was drowned in the chaos. Then the doors of the great hall opened. Everyone turned to look. Walking through the doors was a group of beings that most had never seen in person. Humans, 40 of them, led by a woman with black hair and fierce eyes. Lee walked toward the center stage. Behind her came and the other young fighters from the refuge. They were not armed. They did not need to be. Their presence was weapon enough. Impossible, whispered. There are no more humans. You were wrong, said. Her voice carried through the hall. We survived. We hid in the shadows for 3,000 years because you taught us to be afraid. You told us we were monsters. You told our children that their grandparents deserved to die. She stopped beside. We believed you. We were ashamed of who we were. She turned to face the crowd. But we are not ashamed anymore. Humans were not perfect. No species is, but we deserve to live. Our children deserve to grow up under blue skies and green trees. Our artists deserve to paint their dreams. Our scientists deserve to reach the stars. Her voice broke slightly, but she continued. 8 billion souls were stolen from the universe, not because of what we did, but because of what we might have become. His voice came through the speakers. I have sent these records to every news station in the galaxy. The truth is everywhere now. It cannot be hidden again. Was shaking with rage. Guards, kill them all. This trial is over. The conquered guards raised their weapons, but they hesitated. Think carefully, said to them. The galaxy is watching. If you kill unarmed humans who came here to speak the truth, what does that make you? What does that make the conquered? One guard, a young alien with blue skin, lowered his weapon. Then another, then more. We are soldiers, the first guard said, not murderers. Screamed for loyal officers, but the chaos was spreading. Representatives from different species were arguing, fighting, demanding answers. The great alliance that had held together was cracking. You see what you have done, pointed at. This is exactly why humans had to die. You bring chaos wherever you go. No, said, we bring truth. Your empire was built on lies and fear. We just opened the door. He stepped forward, his chains breaking as guards loyal to truth released him. You could have welcomed humanity into the galaxy. We could have been your partners, your friends. Instead, you chose genocide, and now you will live with the consequences. Drew a weapon from his robes, an ancient blade, a symbol of his office. I ended your species once. I will do it again myself. He rushed at, the crowd gasped. Moved like water. He stepped aside, caught arm, and took the blade away. In one smooth motion, he could have killed the Grand Arbiter. The old alien closed his eyes, waiting for death. But dropped the blade. I am not going to kill you, he said. That would make me what you always said we were. You wanted a monster. I am not that. He pushed back. You will live. You will watch your empire crumble. You will see species you oppressed rise up and demand justice. That is a punishment worse than death. Fell to his knees, broken and old. Stood beside. Around them, humans gathered. The representatives of other species watched in amazement. Some began to walk toward them, curious about these beings from legend. What happens now? Asked. Now, said, everything changes. Outside the great hall, the conquered fleet received contradictory orders. Some captains remained loyal to. Others refused to follow a leader who had been exposed as a liar and a murderer. The first shots were fired between conquered ships before the sun set on the capital. Civil war had begun. And in the center of it all stood the humans, no longer victims, no longer hiding, no longer ashamed. They were home, and they were just getting started. The galaxy was different now. The conquered had shattered into pieces. Some species still fought for the old order. Others had joined a new alliance that called itself the Free Assembly. And in the middle of it all, humanity had risen from the shadows. Stood on the bridge of a warship called the Soul. It was a human ship, built by human hands for the first time in 3,000 years. Around him, young human officers worked at their stations. They wore simple gray uniforms, nothing fancy, nothing proud. They did not need fancy uniforms to know who they were. "We are approaching the capital," said. She was now second in command. The young girl who had asked to fight was now a warrior. Last fleet is gathered there." "How many ships?" asked. 300. They know this is the end." Nodded. Their own fleet was smaller, only 200 ships, but they were not alone. Allies from a dozen species flew beside them. Species who had once feared humans now fought alongside them. "Send a message to the fleet," said. "Tell them we are not here for revenge, we are here for justice. Capture when possible, kill only when necessary." The battle was short but violent. Forces were tired and broken. They had been fighting for a year against enemies on every side. Many surrendered when they saw the human ships approach. Others fought to the death, but they were few. By sunset, the conquered capital was in free assembly hands. Walked through the great halls where he had once stood in chains. Now the halls were empty. The grand throne where had sat was covered in dust. He found the Grand Arbiter in a small room, hiding like a frightened animal. Was thin now, his skin hanging loose, his eyes empty. A year of watching his empire die had broken something inside him. "Have you come to kill me?" asked. Sat down across from him. "No." "Why not? I killed your world, your family, everyone you ever loved." "Yes, you did." His voice was heavy with old pain. "And for a long time I wanted to tear your heart out with my bare hands. I dreamed of it every night." "Then why do you not do it?" Was quiet for a moment. "Because I remembered what my mother used to say. She said that revenge was like drinking poison and hoping the other person dies. She said the only way to truly win against your enemies was to become something better than them." He looked at with something that might have been pity. "You destroyed Earth because you were afraid of what we might become. You were afraid we would spread violence across the galaxy." He shook his head. "Look at us now. We have won, and I am sitting here talking to you instead of putting a blade through your chest. We are exactly what you feared, but not in the way you expected." "I do not understand you," whispered. "No, you never did. That was your mistake." Stood up. "You will live. You will be taken to a prison where you will spend the rest of your days. You will watch as the species you oppressed build something new. You will see humans living freely among the stars. And you will know that everything you did was for nothing." He walked to the door, then stopped. "One more thing. In our language we have a word, han. It means a deep sorrow that never goes away, a grief for things lost that can never come back. I carry han for 8 billion people I could not save." He turned to look at one last time. "But I also carry hope, because their sacrifice was not worthless. Humanity survived, and we will never let the galaxy forget what was done to us, not so we can hate, but so it never happens again to anyone." He left alone in the dark. 6 months later, a new station was completed in the space where Earth had once orbited. They called it New Korea Station, a memorial and a beginning. The station was built in the shape of a traditional Korean palace, but massive, large enough to hold 1 million people. In its center was a garden with water and trees, plants grown from seeds that had been saved by survivors 3,000 years ago. Walked through the garden with at her side. She was now the first human ambassador to the Free Assembly. Her face was tired but peaceful. "Are you happy?" asked. Thought about the question. "Happy. I'm not sure I know what that word means anymore, but I am grateful. Grateful that I lived to see this. Grateful that our children will grow up in sunlight instead of shadows. The galaxy is changing because of you. Because of all of you." "No," shook her head. "The galaxy is changing because of you too. You are the one who woke him up. You are the one who told the truth when no one wanted to hear it." His large black eyes seemed to smile. "I was just curious about humans. I never expected all of this." Curiosity changed the galaxy. Remember that. Was not at the celebration. While others smiled and cheered and toasted to the future, he had taken a small ship and flown to the coordinates where Earth had once been. There was nothing there now, just empty space and distant stars. No sign that 8 billion people had ever laughed or cried or dreamed in this place. He opened the airlock and let something float into the void. It was a small stone, the only piece of Earth that had been found on the old warship where he had slept. He had carried it with him through every battle. "Goodbye, mother," he whispered. "Goodbye, goodbye, nephew I never met." His voice broke. "I am sorry I could not save you. I am sorry I was asleep while you died. But I promise you this, humanity is alive. We remember you. We will always remember you." He stayed there for hours, alone with his grief and his memories. When he returned to New Korea Station, the celebration was ending. People were tired but happy. Children who had never known anything but fear and hiding were running and playing in the gardens. One little girl stopped in front of. She had dark hair and bright eyes and could not have been more than 6 years old. "Are you the soldier?" she asked. "The one from the stories?" Knelt down to look at her. "Yes, I suppose I am. My grandmother says you saved us. She says you made it so we do not have to hide anymore." "I helped. A lot of people helped." The girl looked at him seriously. "Can you tell me about Earth? My grandmother says she never saw it, but her grandmother did, and she told stories. But I want to know from someone who was really there." Felt tears in his eyes for the first time in a year. He smiled and sat down on a bench. The little girl sat beside him. "Earth," he said, "was the most beautiful place in the universe. It had mountains so tall they touched the clouds. It had oceans so deep that no one knew what was at the bottom. It had forests full of animals and birds that sang songs you have never heard." "Tell me more," the girl said. "It had cities made of glass and stone where millions of people lived together. It had small villages where everyone knew everyone else. It had winter, when white snow covered everything, and summer, when the sun stayed in the sky almost all night." Other children gathered around listening, then adults, then more. Talked for hours. He told them about Korean food and Korean music and Korean holidays. He told them about watching the sunrise over Seoul with his sister. He told them about his mother's laugh and his father's quiet wisdom. He told them about home. And as the stars shone through the windows of New Korea Station, a new generation of humans learned who they were and where they came from. Humanity had been nearly destroyed, but they had survived. They had risen. They had reclaimed their place among the stars. And the galaxy would never forget them again.